Alright friends, welcome back again to another episode of Tactical Enlightenment. Our YouTube channel is dedicated to all things Bannerlord related, but especially advanced battlefield command and tactics. And in this episode today, we are going to be testing three different things. I'm going to be testing three different mics in preparation for an asteroid campaign later on. I'm finally done using some of my lower quality mics, and I want your opinion today on which mic you like the best, right? We'll run three different mics. I've got a nice Blue Yeti, I've got a more expensive mic, and basically I'm hoping you guys tell me which of the three mics you like. And it'll be three different episodes, three different battles here, and all you have to do in the comments is write, I prefer number one, or whatever it is. You can even just go number one. Or you can give me a more detailed review. You can say number two mic was best, but it's too quiet, etc. So what we're also going to be doing with that was we're going to be testing the Battanian forces here, the Battanian Wildling and the Battanian Fiend Champ against successively more difficult enemy attacks, right? This first challenge is going to be very difficult. The Sturgeon Heavy Infantry and their Heavy Cavalry, both of these units are very potent units, and we're going to try to defeat them outnumbered by 50%. Now we'll fight other different kingdoms and other different challenges and see what we can overcome with our Battanian Fiend Champs. And into battle we go here. So again, I will show you that we have an equal amount of Drudzinnik champions and an equal amount of Battanian Fiend champs. That's obviously critical for fairness in this showing. And the main idea here, of course, is that we're going to do some kiting. We're going to be pulling our units back slowly. We're going to be basically trying to distract the enemy a little bit with a square. We're going to have a distractionary square early on, and then heavy cavalry on our right flank. Now, I'm always looking behind me to see where I'm going to kite to. We're probably going to kite up this hill. So I'm going to start setting up our units here, sort of right in front of the river. You can also use rivers like this to slow down the enemy, right? Anytime you can slow down the enemy, that's advantageous for you. In fact, there's an argument to be made of putting your units right there, right? That way that the enemy literally has to run down or over a ditch just to get to your guys, right? Meanwhile, you can have your archers absolutely lighting them up. Now, your archers you want in relatively compact formations for this battle, right? Same thing with your skirmishers. I would not advise shield wall because they move slowly, but a line formation is actually quite effective. We'll have this distractionary square right here. These guys are going to be bait. Where it's at some point in this battle, probably pretty early on, we're going to use those guys very much like bait, right? And it's gonna seem like we're just throwing them away almost, like they're just worthless. The reason we're doing that, of course, is that we need some of our units to sort of take the brunt here while the rest of our units pound away. I'm going to give these guys a little bit of elevation, so I'm actually going to move the 5th Corps up this hill just a tiny bit here, the 4th Corps down there next to those guys. And there is an argument for another advanced strategy here, right? What we could do is we could actually pull just a few of these guys off of the 4th Corps, right? We could pull like 15 or 20 guys, put them down here right next to the 8th Corps, and as soon as they hit your cav, you have those guys charge. Now you can actually have the 8th Corps hold fire in advance, right? They're hold fire, so that as soon as the enemy gets to those guys, you tell them to charge, they whip out their broadswords, and they start wailing away on enemy cavalry. All right, so we'll give this a shot here. I've got the 7th Corps is just my guy. I don't know why I need a whole corps for him. Evidently, though, he can't fit in one of the other divisions. Now, this is what I want to show you, right? We've got 200 Battanian Fiend champs. Oh, and they're a little bit shy. I thought they would have 200 Drudzinnik champions. They're too shy. Hopefully, you can forgive that slight discrepancy. Again, the fact that we're outnumbered by 50% here, this is already a difficult challenge. And you guys have heard me say it on the channel before, try not to kite with kill box or kite when the enemy has 200 heavy cavalry, yet that's precisely what we're going to be trying here. Now, I think actually if these guys were set to fire, they would shoot some in between the horses, and they might kill a few guys, but a lot of these shots are simply going to hit shields. So we'll tell them to hold fire, and as they hit the enemy line, or as the enemy line hits our cav line, these guys get told to charge. Hopefully then any cav that's sort of standing still immediately gets pounded. They're getting shot over here. And now the enemy, as soon as the enemy's by, you can turn those guys to shoot. Right? Now we want those guys firing away and doing damage. And the death spam is pretty heavily in our favor at this stage. Now the other enemy forces are quite a ways off, and I actually want to slow them down a little bit, right? So we're actually going to put a division towards the enemy and sort of try to pressure them. See if I get stabbed off my horse here. And this is something that you guys all deal with. I understand this, and that is the fact that while you're commanding, right? Oftentimes you note that you're getting shot, you're getting stabbed. It's a very difficult game to do both, right? Admittedly, we do it quite a bit on the channel. On top of all that, right, fellas, I'm narrating, right? I'm trying to keep this lively for you. I'm trying to describe what I'm doing, things like that. This is not an easy process. All right, so you can see our 2nd Corps in there, and what we've done is square them, and we're just dragging them in front of that 6th Corps, because what I want them doing basically is distracting while these guys just fire javelins en masse. Actually going to pull the 1st Corps on the other side here, and we're going to drag this square right to the edge of this valley. Right, you can see lots of death spam as our guys pound the enemy attacking that square. The reason I'm dragging that square left and right is twofold. I want the enemy's attention on it, but I also want to move it so that those guys aren't getting killed quickly, and I want to basically be pounding them with javelins as they attack the square. In this case, I'm actually going to move it slightly behind the enemy. All these archers continue to rake. This is the 4th and 5th Corps doing most of the damage. Avoid a spear here. Okay, we made it through that gauntlet. And now what we're doing is we're starting to flank with our skirmisher divisions, right? The 1st is there, the 6th is there. The 2nd Corps is being swarmed, which is fine. We're going to continue to move these boys. But the majority of the damage at this stage is clearly being done by the Battanian Fiend Champs. We're going to back up 1 division at a time, so the 4th is told to back up. We can actually back the 8th Corps up too. There's just 14 guys in there. You can see the sturgeons are starting to spread out. The 2nd Corps is destroyed. I don't know if you guys can tell that, but that 2nd Corps eventually dissolved, right? That was the force that that we were using as a sacrificial square. We're going to start to pull the 5th Corps up here. The 6th Corps actually behind the enemy because we want these guys actually firing javelins into the sides of the enemy. The 4th Corps, again, we're sort of opening up the center here. The 5th is moving back, and while that's happening, the 4th Corps is starting to flank the enemy. Now, the 6th Corps over here, we actually want to start using these guys in a shield wall too. Why? Because the enemy has archers pounding us. Right, we're suffering a lot of losses to javelins, to throwing axes. Well, I guess they don't have javelins, but certainly tons of throwing axes, and of course, their archers over there are also doing good work. And you can already tell from the power bar that things are starting to go in our favor, right? We have now turned this battle that looked very ugly for us into a victorious situation. So I have no problem at this stage actually attacking with the 6th, but I like my squares, right? When you have units like Battanian Fiend Champs doing massive damage over and over again from an elevated position like this, just let your square work. Let these guys run around. They're actually fighting in there. It's not like they're worthless. And a big part of what they're doing is gathering attention. The enemy archers are shooting them. And of course, the enemy infantry was magnetized to them. And we didn't just win here, right? We smoked them pretty bad. And of course, I'm shooting a few guys at the end. That's mostly just to satiate my bloodlust. I didn't actually fight in this battle. All right, so you see 400 Battanian Fiend Champs. Well, actually 200 Battanian Fiend Champs and a bunch of wildling and weak cavalry completely devastate a force of 600 sturgeons, including their tier 6 noble unit. This is a modified kill box, right? There's some other strategies going on here, and I do recognize that's quite a bit of micromanaging, but I think most of this is stuff that you guys can do. All right, we'll move on to the next challenge now, and a new mic. And again, at the end of this episode, please rate the 3 mics and say, you know, I liked mic number 1, mic number 2, mic number 3. To avoid bias, I'm not even going to tell you which mic is which. I just want you guys to tell me which one you would like to listen to for the next 6 months. All right, fellas, on to the next battle. All right, so save game reloaded here. New mic, right? It might sound very, very different. I have listened to these mics myself. They have a different sound. Some of them sound warmer. Some of them sound less fancy. But ultimately, it's up to you guys what you guys think you prefer. Now, we're going to try an even harder challenge here. Again, we have 400 of our units, but we're going to give them 700, and we will fight a mixed army now of the Imperials, right? We'll give them all tier 5 units, of course, a good amount of archers, horse archers, nasty manavletons, etc. Here, let's give them an appropriate leader, war leader here, and now we will see how we do. Here, actually, let's... I don't know if it matters. Damage against mounted troops. I beg your pardon. Doesn't matter how the mic sounds when I get a frog in my throat, right? It still sounds like a frog in the throat. All right, again, we'll fight in the open valley here so that the enemy doesn't have any disadvantages, and away we go. And again, I've tried to make it so that we have roughly the same amount of Battanian Fiend Champs as they have Imperial Elite Cataphracts. Obviously, if they have a huge disadvantage in that, that will dramatically swing the battle one way or the other. Now, optimally in this battle, if I was fighting for my life, we'd be up here in the trees, right? We'd be using the hills and shit like that to slow the cavalry. I'm not going to take dramatic use of the landscape. We're still going to kite. We're still going to move around, but I don't want to really badly exploit the AI. As all of us know, the AI does get into fits with various different landscapes. That said, I would absolutely use these if this was a battle in my campaign that I felt like I had to use. It's part of the game. It's part of real life, right? Napoleon used landscapes. Alexander knew how to utilize the landscape. We will utilize it as well. All right, so again, dividing my units up here, 4th, 5th, and 6th. And again, I think just like the last time, I think we want a skirmisher and javelin division here. 1, 2, 3. I think this is fine, actually. I've got 1 mainline infantry, 1 voluntary square. The second will be bait. We've got a nice skirmisher line here. And of course, we're going to try to do major damage to their cavalry as they charge in, right? That'll be paramount in this battle, as it is in all battles where you face a huge amount of cavalry. Devastate that cavalry wave, and generally the rest of the battle gets a lot easier. So what I'm doing here is a little bit of a succession defense. I'm putting the 4th archers pretty close, right, to the enemy, and the 5th archers actually behind them, right? We will actually also put this 6th division at the beginning in between, and a shield wall. And there's Battanian Fiend Champs in there, right, but not very many. We'll put like 30, in fact. And what that does is as the enemy hits these various waves, it'll slow them down. Lastly, we will use this 2nd division as a distractionary square, just like the 1st. All right, into battle we go here. Let's see if the numbers are pretty close. 207. Okay, they actually have more elite cataphracts than us in this battle, and that's just fine, right? And we're obviously facing a hugely outnumbered situation. This actually might be a battle you can't win. That doesn't mean we're not going to try here on the channel, right? You guys know I'm all about a channel. We're all about a channel, I guess, but we're also all about a challenge. Now I'm going to put this cavalry a little bit closer to the enemy. I want the cavalry being a main part of the absorption of their initial charge, and depending on how they come in, I may move those guys. In fact, they have horse archers. Let's take advantage of this. What I'm actually going to do here is absorb a lot of these horse archer shots right away by sending this cav line right into their face, right? Those guys will absorb a lot of arrows. You can hear their shields being pounded. Meanwhile, our archers are obviously pounding them, right? Our archers have nothing to shoot except the enemy horse archers, and the death spam, which will light up very shortly, will be representative of that fact, right? The enemy horse archers are going to get destroyed here. We suffered 1 loss. I got to avoid getting shot off my horse here, so I think I'll peel back here. And it's interesting, the enemy cav is kind of rallying behind their main infantry line. I think that's actually better strategy for the enemy, and it's going to be a little bit harder for us to deal with, but we still relish a challenge. So the heavy cav is still likely to charge, so I'm moving these divisions up, right, to try to absorb it. Now notice they're heading for our heavy horse line. That's fine, right? We're going to pull these guys back. We're going to square the 1st as well. At the beginning here with the heavy cav charge, more than anything, I want these guys in that square, right? I want these guys absorbing heavy cav charges. I want them slowing down this heavy cav so that our Battanian Fiend Champs here can work. Now, I'm still going to move these squares back, right? We're not just going to fucking throw these guys to the wolves. It kind of looks like we are, but trust me, we're not. Meanwhile, these archers, we're going to start to pull them back. Right now, the enemy has horse archers over here, and we're moving while the horse archers are shooting us. That's suboptimal, but we have enough archers that are still shooting that it's still yielding a net positive effect for us. Now, I have the 1st division in a square there, but I don't want to move it right where my archers are, right? You don't want to have your units sort of overlapping. So I'm going to actually move the 4th archers back. We'll move this 2nd cav division, or excuse me, the 2nd infantry division, and then the 3rd cav. And I know I moved some of those right into them. It's just because at some point or other you don't have any more room for your units. In fact, we're going to move this 6th onto this little platform here. Now the death spam's close, right? They're definitely causing a lot of losses, and part of the reason it just got better for the enemy is that we're moving, right? Their huge vanguard is moving in here, and I'm sort of forced on some level to confront it. We can't just run away forever, right? Now, one thing I can do, right, as their enemy vanguard moves in, is we can move this 6th division with javelin throwers and archers and whatnot behind them. But those guys will be destroyed by the enemy if we don't protect them. So here's how we're going to do that. We're going to give these guys a shield wall of infantry in front and put some cavalry here just to absorb some of the enemy arrow fire, right? I'm just moving 2 lines of shield wall there. They're absolutely distractionary. And we will move those guys basically towards the enemy sacrificially. Now, these archers are smoking everything in sight. I have the 6th Corps starting to move in. Again, we're still dragging this distractionary square right into the maw of our 2 different archer divisions. The 6th Corps can now actually be told to charge, right? Now, some of these guys will run the wrong way. Unfortunately, that's just the nature of it. Even when you tell them to attack a specific unit, they don't always do what they're told. In fact, they're quite disobedient. We're going to move this square away from these archers again, right? We want all of these Imperials that are attacking this square smoked in the back, right? You can see these guys getting shot. In fact, most of these guys are routing at this stage. They're being shot by 200 Battanian fiend champs. This never goes well for you. They're starting to rout. And now at this stage, you actually want to attack with this division and kill what's left of their stubborn infantry, right? Try to basically get rid of that threat. Now what do we have to deal with? Still, right? Lots of horse archers. So we're going to put some of these guys in a square and or shield wall facing the enemy. But we still have these 2 strong archer divisions, and now we have shields in front of them. So these guys are routing. These guys are pussies here. You're always going to get routers in a battle like this, in the custom battle. That's because the leaders in these episodes have shit skills, right? They don't have strong leadership. They don't have the morale perks that you'd like to see. Now, our archers are still working here. Unfortunately, something that's happening is they are attacking the guys that are routing. That's just part of the nature of the game. You can try to have them be a little bit more precise in how they attack the enemy. In other words, you can move them physically towards the enemy forces in this situation, right? Basically, if they're attacking horse archers behind you, move them away from the horse archers, right? Move them closer to somebody else, and they should start to work. Now, at this stage, we have what? We have 120 archers. The enemy has 168, but we have a little shield wall out front here that's acting as bait. And more importantly, we have Battanian fiend champs. Not only are our guys going to have ammo longer than the enemy, but those guys are better shots, right? We all know that Battanian fiend champs are the best archers in the game, and this is, even though we're outnumbered, what, 16 to 12, kind of, you can think of it like that. That shit ain't going to matter, right? Eventually, these Battanian fiend champs are going to win the day. The other thing that's happening, you can actually see it, is their sergeant crossbow are starting to charge because they're out of ammo, right? Everybody knows, or most people know. I guess I say everybody knows. I can't assume. A lot of people know that sergeant crossbow only have, of course, our infantry just routed. They only have 1 quiver of bolts, right? So that is an impacting factor. These guys eventually just turn into light infantry. Now, they're not worthless light infantry, right? They come up with their shield. They're actually fairly potent. But our Battanian fiend champs just firing away fucking thousands of bolts, I don't know, I think are slowly going to win the day here. It is closer than I thought it was going to be. It'll probably come down to a little lucky thing, like whether or not who routes, right? If they route first, I hear some of our guys routing, it's going to be very close. In fact, I think I'll try to swing this battle here. I know this is, I said I wasn't going to do this, but we will try to cut down a few archers here and swing this in our favor. We're going to play hero for this battle. I don't know if it's going to work. I hear guys routing. It's super close. Well, and it's not going to help if I go down. In fact, let's try to fight and help these guys. Oh, shit. This might be down to like the last 20 guys kind of battle. That's my favorite sound when guys die. They're routing. We must yield. They're thinking about it. It's close. I'm fighting this out just because, of course, who doesn't like a close battle here? Why am I shooting the guys that are routing? Let's shoot the guys that are still on the battlefield here. And what did we win with? Like 20 guys here at the end? Technically, the power bar still favors the enemy, but I think that's... shit. These guys are not particularly fast. I think the power bar favors them because their units that are routing still technically count on the battlefield. I think this battle is over. In fact, we'll speed it up here. All we really have now is this cavalryman's charging. We'll speed it up some more here. We'll tell our guys to charge, and the enemy is fleeing, right? Now, we didn't win by a big margin, right? This is one of the closest custom battles I've ever had. Usually when you get down to 18 troops, somebody somewhere is routing. But in this case, of course, victory is still victory. This is still 700 units, including more Tier 6 than we had in our army. Of course, the Battanian Fiend Champs did work, but ultimately victory is victory. All right, so we'll come back for one more of these challenges here, one more mic test, and hopefully you guys can let me know what you think. All right, so away we go here on this last challenge. We are going to challenge the Battanians. This is, again, I want you to say mic number 3 if you like this one. I've done some testing on this one, and I'm actually not thrilled about it. This is, believe it or not, is a more expensive mic. We're going to do a little bit of testing, though, and we're going to have a battle against the Battanians. Now, to mix it up here, we're giving an enemy with lots of archers. In fact, the fearsome sharpshooters, and we'll give them lots of banner knights as well. This is 280 banner knights against 280 Battanian Fiend Champs. And to even out the fact that they have 700 troops, we have, 120 skirmishers, right? Real even. We're going to play on, so to speak, the Battanians' home field advantage, the Bogbeth Arch, and we'll see how this goes. Let's give them, one of these guys has plus, here we go, increased melee attack damage. We'll give him this Radagos guy, even though he doesn't really look like a Battanian. We will roll with that and see if they can do any better with a good captain. Now, this battlefield does present obviously good options for Battanian Fiend Champs. I'm probably going to try to get a division up on that wall here, although I think I prefer this side over here, and we're going to start spreading out our units. Now, very similar to what you've seen me do on all the other previous battles. I like to have similar formations each time. That said, you don't want to get locked into something all the time, right? You're going to have certain battles when you play Bannerlord where it's better to have an irregular mix. In other words, to do something that you normally don't do. And I know I just said, you want to use consistency. That's true, but you also want to be able to pull out a different tool for the job when you really need it, right? And the only way you're really going to learn those tricks is by playing. I cannot possibly cover all the single possible reasons of why you would do that, although I will try on the challenge or on the channel to cover those type of things, right? Your unusual circumstances where it might be beneficial to try a different strategy. Now, we're at the back of the map here. I'm in a very lousy starting position, but the way we roll, you fellas know me, we're going to roll with this and do our best. It's a very unusual situation here, and so we're going to completely freelance in this episode. This may not work. I'm famous for shit not working, right? Anybody who's succeeded, who's had a lot of success in Bannerlord, has no doubt had a lot of failure. Now, what we do have is a beautiful sharp ridge here that we're going to use. And we've got our first infantry we're going to put in bait down here in the valley. The second archer, let's go ahead and put the cav down here in the valley as well. I'm not sure what the enemy's going to do. I don't even know how they're going to approach us. Look at how many crossbow they have, right? They have almost as many crossbows as we have in our total of warriors in our total force here. I think let's get these guys back just a bit. 6th Corps here is a mix of skirmishers and archers. I like to do that because sometimes it's nice to have guys towards the front with shields, right? The enemy will shoot them. In this situation here, the crossbow's shooting at them, and a lot of those guys are blocking those bolts. Of course, your other divisions here, you definitely want to have in shield wall, and those guys will clearly be absorbing a lot of the enemy bolts. Now, these guys, I'm not thrilled about their access. It seems like they're being pounded pretty good. So what can you do about that, right? We can make the enemy come to us, so we're going to move these guys back. I know I'm near the edge of the map. It looks like we can go all the way up to the top of that hill. But when you know you're at the edge of the map, right, that needs to be in the back of your mind. Whoops, moved the wrong unit again. That's going to happen. When you're at the edge of the map, right, you need to be aware of that because you may not be able to kite, right? You always want to sort of probe out where the edge of the map is, and you do that simply by holding down a unit and sending it out there. As soon as you see that red X, that's your edge of the map. So I can use this entire hilltop here, which is good because that's what my plan is. All right, let's get these guys facing the correct direction. The knuckleheads are facing the wrong way. Our Battanian Fiend Champs are finally starting to work. I'm going to send our cavalry to meet the enemy cavalry. Not to destroy them, of course, but just to essentially try to slow them down, right? We want those guys doing a slow down job. We want them attracting attention. Our Battanian Fiend Champs, of course, are raking them as they come in. 280 Battanian Fiend Champs. This is a very potent force.
Now their crossbow did not have good line of sight, and I think that's going to pay dividends in this battle. I probably will kite with one of these divisions eventually. If the enemy ignores us up here in the 6th Corps, we'll be happy to throw javelins at them from a distance, right? There's no question that potentially favors us. I'm already going to move one of these Battanian Fiend-Champ divisions to the side in case they decide to attack that main core of them with most of their forces. We will prepare for that in advance. Now there's tons of Banner Knights running everywhere, right? The enemy has 280 Banner Knights, right? So they're going to have Banner Knights galore. But we're going to do some pretty good damage here once this other archer division gets established. Now that infantry division, I think I did not square it in time. I think they're getting mauled. And that's obviously unpleasant for us, but we're going to deal with that. Now these guys over here have one job besides killing that sergeant, and that is to absorb a lot of the arrows coming from all of those crossbow. Now, like I said, once these guys got established, I thought the death spam was going to turn in our favor. The enemy's kind of going crazy on these guys, so what do, right? Have those motherfuckers charge. Hold arrows, charge. If they're being swarmed by cavalry, what happens a lot of times is they run around. They can't shoot, and so they kind of run around frantically looking for a guy to attack. Then they whip out their bow to shoot a second later. Then they think about shooting. Then they get hit again. Then they pull their sword out. It's better to actually charge like that, and it almost looks like they charged the enemy cavalry right off the battlefield. In fact, they did. Wow. I mean, the power of the Battanian Fiend-Champ is legendary, but that was amazing. I just, of course, they had arrow support from the flank here, but I had that 100 guys or whatever charge and hold fire, and they just destroyed everything. All these pathetic little Battanian, or Banner Knights here with their pathetic little spear. Yeah. That's who I'm talking about, you. You're dead man. I'm going to kill you to end this episode. We're going to end this episode, but again, this episode is primarily going to be a mic test for you fellas. I'd love for you guys to give me your opinion on which mic you like the most. Motherfucker. I think that guy killed me. I think his head just got lopped off. Anyways, victory is ours, even though they ignobly killed my ass at the end of this episode. And again, hopefully this gives you guys some tactics. Hopefully this episode shows you the power of the Battanian Fiend and Battanian Wildlings, right, in all 3 episodes. And just for the record, I had to fight 2 of these battles twice. In other words, it took me 2 shots. The first time, I did not kite particularly well, and the sturgeons enveloped me. And the second battle, they kind of kicked our ass one of the times as well. I didn't adjust for their horse archers. They got behind and shot us to pieces. But this was the first attempt against the Valandians, and what an ass whipping here, right? I mean, this is amazing. These guys killed or chased off 700 Valandians and lost barely a fourth of their force. So anyways, again, this is a mic test. I know this episode now has gone on too long. I'm often long-winded. But hopefully I'll be long-winded with a better mic in the future. So this is your chance, fellas. Right? I'm probably going to do an intermittent tests from here on out, but this is sort of the episode to speak up and say, hey, mic number 2 sucked. Mic number 3 was the best, or whatever it was. Leave your feedback here, and of course, I will go with democracy. So, of course, you want to subscribe if you want to see our upcoming Asteroid campaign. We're going to play it start to finish. I'm not quite sure what finish means yet. It probably won't be taking every single last city and castle, but start to dominance will be probably the goal. We will start a new campaign from scratch, probably in a month, give or take. I'm going to take a little break. Please subscribe. Please hit like. All that normal stuff I say at this stage, fellas. And I will see you guys next time.